one or?
No, it's the same thing. So sum is fine. I don't care what order I add things in, right? If I got $7 and you got $5, I don't care which one I add first. We both got $12 together, right?
And the same for multiplying too.
Same for multiplying. So the funky thing about addition and multiplication, those are kind of nicer operations because it doesn't matter which order you do things in. The most evil word up here really is like less than, and I'll show you why. So if I say, let me build up to it. If I say the quotient of 7 and a number, how would you write that? Quotient of 7 and a number.
7 divided by.
Beautiful. 7 divided by x. You can write it exactly as it comes. Right? So that'd be 7 divided by x or 7 divided by x. Either way.
Or 7 divided by 7 is 1, right?
But I didn't say the quotient of 7 and 7. I said the quotient of 7 and some number. I don't know what the other number is. So I agree with you. If I said the quotient of 7 and 7, that would be 7 divided by 7, that would be 1. But this is the quotient of 7 and some number. So I don't know what the second number is. But I do know that this means what operation?
So then you put an X, right?
Yep.
To block it, right?
To represent that I don't know what that number is yet. Yeah. Cool. So here's the evil word. In fact, let me ask you this. Just let me ask you this. Can you tell me what is 7 less than 10? What number is 7 less than 10? 3. You with me? What did you actually do? If I said, what is 7 less than 10? What did you actually do?
7 upon 10.
10 minus 7, right? This is not math's fault. This is English's fault. This is what, when I say this, I said the 7 first and the 10 second, but the English is what turned it around. We really mean 10 minus 7, don't we? So I could say, what is 10 decreased by 7? And then English and math both agree. What is 10 decreased by 7? It's exactly the order that it came in, right? But when I say it like this, what is 7 less than 10? I have to write it 10 minus 7, because that's really what the English means.
Why don't you just write it, what is 10 less 7?
Yeah, you could do that too. Yeah. The weird thing is you don't hear that as often anymore. They use that in the book every now and again, but actually to me that's a little more evil, because then it depends on if you say less than or just less. Right? Yeah.
Or 10 zombies, you get 10 zombies and then minus 7 zombies, you get 3
So
zombies.
it's sort of like making it a real life situation, except it's not quite real life. But no, it's still good visual. What the hell?
But I love zombies.
So if I said this, what is 8 less than a number? X minus 8. I love it. This would be x minus 8. You have to turn it around. And when we get to word problems, which is in our future, this is when people start getting like, you're trying to set up a garden, and you somehow get one side has to be negative 10 feet long. And then I'm like, do it. I want to see that happen. It's because somebody turned this the wrong way around. If you turn this number the wrong way around, what's 10 minus 8? 2. What's 8 minus 10?
1.
Negative 2. So if you turn this thing the wrong way around, you're going to get negative answers. And if you're telling me that your length has to be negative 10 feet, what the hell's that made out of? Is that black hole material?
So you don't want a negative answer. It's got to be positive. Just saying this one.
Well, it's got to be written in the other direction. That's all I'm saying. If it's negative or positive, it totally depends on what x is. Because if x is 3, what's 3 minus 8? Negative 5. Right? We're going to talk about that here later today in chapter 2. But for right now, if I see less than, I've got to write this the other way around. But if I see something like, what is the difference between 8 and a number? How would I write that? that would just be 8 minus x. It's exactly the order they gave you. It's only this phrase, only less than. That's the one that turns it around. Got to be careful. Yeah.
What if it just says less?
Like you said earlier, if it said 8 less a number, that would be 8 minus x. But we know in English, when I say 7 less than 10, I don't mean 7 minus 10. If you said, I'm 7 years younger than he is, and he's 10, you don't mean you're negative 3 years old, right? You're like, I'm going to be born in 3 years, and then you disappear. I don't. That's weird. Are you guys kind of with me? That's English problem. And then math just does what it can with it. It says math goes, oh, you mean this.
So,
Yes, sir.
In this case, like, what is the difference between 8 and number? Can we say like x minus 8?
No.
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 So what?
Everything else comes exactly the order it comes in. Just like I had the quotient of 7 and a number, what did I write first? 7
divided
over x. If I said the quotient of a number and 7, it would have been x over 7. The only one that turns it around is that one. I like it. Because that's what English does. That's what we mean in English when we say that.
So what if you say, what is the product of 8 for that problem? Let's say if it was multiplication.
What's the product of 8 and a number?
Would it be 8x?
Yeah, I love it. The product of 8 and a number is 8x. The sum of 8 and a number?
8x.
Careful. What's the sum of 8 and a number? 8 plus x. I like it. Sweet. Okay, maybe. So these are not word problems yet. They're sort of like the groundwork for word problems. Yeah.
So less than equals the phrase of subtract from.
Yeah, exactly. So 7 less than 10 would be subtract 7 from
Go
10.
back and say 7 subtracted from 10.
Exactly. I like it. Okay. So that was the last piece of section 1A. Yeah.
The total of the number, a number and 8
So that word total, what operation do you think that means?
plus.
Plus. So the total of a number and 8? Is that what it is?
product
The total of a number and 8
is
Yes.
8 plus x.
is
So
what?
8 plus.
That's technically right, but it would be x plus 8. But it could be 8 plus x, because addition, it doesn't matter which way you really write it.
So do you care which way we write it in our answer?
No, not for addition. But I want you to really understand, if you turn the subtraction around, you've changed the
I
problem.
understand, but for addition, multiplication.
Doesn't matter.
You go
Right.
with the minus.
You don't do 8 times x, it's just 8x multiplication.
Of course, yeah. We had the problem earlier about the product of a number and 6. Remember that? So we had the product of a number and 6. We had that one up here earlier. And that, if you wrote it exactly the way that number and 6, that's the product is multiply, a number and 6. Well, what's the slightly better way to write that? 6x. And that's just convention. That's not saying that that's wrong. It's just saying that conventionally we write it like that. It's a lot easier to work with. Yes, sir.
Now you do 6x, you don't have to put any symbol in between it because since there's nothing there, it automatically means multiply.
Exactly. There's no plus that can't be added. There's no minus that can't be subtracted. There's no division that can't be divided. It's got to be the only dude left.
Right.
And we do that really just to save time. Right? I don't want to make that dot all the damn time. So let me just stick them together. Yeah.
so how about sit and then do like this?
So if I had 6 like this,
Yeah.
how would you say that in English?
6.
Even better than 6 divided by x. Good. The quotient of 6 and x. I like it.
So what does more mean here?
Say again?
More.
So in what context?
Like 8 more than a number.
Okay, sure.
Plus.
Exactly. More than is increased by. Right? So it would just be 8 plus x. I like it. And again, on page 78, that's where they have the little box. And more than is one of them. They have a little box at the top of page 78. It's like your little English to Mathish dictionary. Right?
How about 8 times divided plus times.
No. You don't have more than 2 operations in a row. Yeah. Okay. So now we're from chapter 2. And this is where I really want to... We've already hit this a couple times earlier, and I didn't want to do too much of it then, because I knew it was coming up in chapter 2. This is signed numbers, which officially is called integers. And a little quick side note about integers. Types of numbers. I want to see where integers fits into all the different types of numbers that there are. The nicest numbers there are called the natural numbers. And these are the things, I always give the example like my caveman. There's a caveman. And he's got 1 rock. Rocks are good because you can kill things with it and then eat them. Right? So he's got 1 rock. He's happy. He can have dinner tonight. He's got good aim. Get that thing and eat it. So natural numbers are the things that came naturally to us. 1, 2, 3. So that's exactly what those are. Forever. So they're also called the counting numbers. And you can see why. Now here's the freaky thing. Do you guys realize you live in an age where a lot of things have already been discovered, but it's not that long ago relative to all of history that humans did not know about the number 0. The Babylonians, their whole civilization did not know about 0. Well, they knew about it, they just didn't have a symbol for it. They didn't know how to represent it. You guys kind of with me? So if they had 400 people coming, they would write the number 4 and then leave some space and hope to God people knew what they meant. And that's not actually that far from the truth. They just didn't have a symbol for it. I don't know, are you guys kind of with me? This is so freaky to us because you're like, 0, who the hell doesn't know 0? We know 0 so much we know where it gives us freaking trouble. Right? But there was a time when they didn't know this. So when they came up with it, that's the whole numbers. And you got to love the word whole because that's what a 0 looks like. A whole. So it adds 0 into the mix. Integers come in when you say, this is like my caveman has his rock. He drops it somewhere, falls way down into a ravine. Now he's got no rocks. So he's got to go over to his friend and borrow a rock. So now he's in debt. So you got to come up with the idea of negative numbers. And that's integers. Integers are just all these and they're negatives. You can count, Jeff. There you go. So that's what integers are.
So wouldn't natural numbers just be positive numbers?
Yeah, natural numbers, you can also call them just positive whole numbers.
Okay.
Then you got whole numbers that include 0.
Yeah.
And then the integers are all the negative and positive whole numbers put together.
So you're saying if they are both whole numbers in natural, then can we put -0?
Yeah, what is negative 0? 0. And the whole idea of, what's that? So the whole idea of negative, and that's what we're really getting into today, is how does negative stuff fit in? The whole idea of negative is it's the opposite of. You remember that's how I explained why 2 negative numbers multiply to be a positive? Negative means the opposite of. Right? So what's the opposite of white? So what's the opposite of white? Well, the opposite of white is black. Well, what's the opposite of white? What's the opposite of black? White. So if I do the opposite of, it comes back to what it was. They cancel, don't they? Do you see that? Think about it. The opposite of, white. Well, that's the opposite of black, which is white. So it goes back to what it was. They cancel. You guys see that? You would never say that in real life. It's like, why don't you just freaking say white? Why do you have to say opposite of? But they cancel. You guys kind of with me? So what's opposite in mathematics is negative. Negative means opposite. So if I ask you, what is the opposite of 5? Negative 5. And why is it the opposite of 5? Because together...
5. Just take away 5, right?
And get what? 0. They're opposites because they cancel each other out. So 5 and negative 5 makes 0. So what's the opposite of 0?
0.
0. So that's why negative 0 is 0, because you add 0 to 0 to get 0. So what's the opposite of 0? Itself. So negative 0 is the same thing as 0. Because 0 is already 0. So that's the one number that really doesn't have an opposite. It's its own opposite.
Yeah, I understand. Just for the sake of theory, can we put it as integers? Like part of that number, part of that category? Number 3?
And can we put what there?
Negative 0.
No.
Okay.
No. Because otherwise you could say, well, why don't we put negative 6 over 2? Because that's what negative 3 is. There's another way to write it. So negative 0 is 0. And I've already got that listed. Yeah.
Or 15 minus 0 equals 0.
No, 15 minus 0 is 15. Good. So 0 is the only number that won't affect another number if I add or subtract it. Right? That's an interesting property. So if I add or subtract 0, it won't affect the other number.
Yeah.
Good. There you go. No, it'll be whatever. 7 minus 0 is 7. Yeah.
But wait, it seems but different in times, right? 7 times 0 is 0. Right?
Beautiful. That's times. And of course, 7 divided by 0 is
7.
undefined.
What does undefined mean?
We talked about it before.
I know, but
Okay. So see me out. So now let's get into sign numbers. So that's another way of saying integers and how they act with each other. And I already gave you part of a rule that will help you through this kind of thing. And the kind of problem I'm talking about, let me write a couple of problems up here. I could have negative 4 plus 1. Or I could have negative 8 minus 11. So there's one fundamental difference between those two problems. So there's really only two things you have to remember. There's only two situations you could possibly have when you're combining sign numbers, positive and negative numbers. They could either have the same sign. Is that cool? Do you see it?
Yeah.
They're both negative. Negative 8, negative 11. Or they can have different signs. Negative 4, positive 1. And the rule is, if they have different signs, subtract the numbers and put the sign of the bigger one on. So what do I mean by that? Here I have, what are the two numbers involved? 4 and 1. The 4 is negative and the 1 is positive. So what's the difference between 4 and 1? 3. Which one's bigger? 4. So it's negative 3. Now, I like to teach this in a lot of different ways, but I first like to tell you this rule, because that rule is very straightforward. If they are opposite signs, you subtract the numbers and put the sign of the bigger one on.
So you did a subtraction on that one?
Yes, I did. 4 minus 1 is 3. But then what's bigger? 4. And that's negative, so it's negative 3. So a physical situation would be, I owe you $4. I give you $1. I still owe you $3, right? I wish that took me out of debt, but the math says no.
I mean, also you can look on the graph because
Good.
minus 4 to the 3.
I love it. So another visual, another idea is, this is what I was doing the other day with you. If you're down 4 and you go up 1,
3.
you're at negative 3 now. You're not above ground, are you? So I can say, if I'm in a 4-foot hole and I climb up a foot, I'm still 3 feet in the hole. So there's a ton of physical situations you can think of with sign numbers.
What does the addition sign mean after that 4? You got the negative 4 plus. Is that negative 4 plus 1? Or what?
Yep. I like it. Right, so that is addition, but that 1 is positive. Right?
So it's like you've got basically 0, and then you're given 1, you still owe 3, right?
If I owe you $4 and I give you 1, I still owe you $3. I mean, that's money is a really good way to think of this. So here, if I owe you $8 and I owe somebody else $11,
Minus 18. 19.
I'm still owing people, right? I wish this become positive 19 and then somebody somewhere gave me $19. But no, I'm in debt to 2 people. It should be even more negative, right? If you want to think about it like this, I'm down 8, and then I go down 11 more. Now I'm way the hell down in the hole, right? If you like it visually, or here's the rule. Here's the rule that's going to get you through. If they're different signs, you subtract and put the sign of the bigger one on. If they're the same sign, you add them and then put that sign back on. 8 plus 11 is 19. Put the negative back on. Right? Same signs, add them. Put the sign back on. So what math is telling me here is when I'm combining these 2 negative numbers, and I'm waiting to have somebody tell me that we don't have 2 negative numbers up there. Right? Because I got negative 8 and I got 11, I'm subtracting them. But minus is the same thing as negative. Because I don't know if you guys know another way to write negative 8 minus 11. I can write that as negative 8 plus negative 11.
But that would be positive, right? No. Oh, it's only when you multiply, right?
It just makes it a lot more obvious that these 2 are negative. Are you with me?
Oh.
So if I add 2 negative things together, it should get even more negative.
Okay.
So that just makes it a lot more obvious what's going on. Yeah.
Or if something's like minus 8 times by...
We're not there yet. We're only talking about subtracting and adding. Multiplying, dividing coming up later. Okay. Let me ask you this. Here, you guys try these real quick.
Here we go.
Maybe a little evil in the last one.
Does the 2 negatives only apply for divisions?
Say again.
Multiplication?
If
Or
they
does it-
cancel, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's division multiplication.
Oh, okay.
In adding, subtracting, in combining things, 2 negatives become more negative. And that's the idea of I owe you, I owe you. That would be 2 negatives. I owe several people.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, if I owe you some money, I wish I could then just owe you money and then all of a sudden I don't owe anybody because the 2 negatives cancel. No. The 2 negatives become even more negative
Okay.
when I'm combining them. Yeah.
We can't say negative 8, like the development equals negative 19,
Yeah, negative 8. Say again.
negative 11.
Yeah, negative 8 minus 11.
That's minus.
Yeah, so this is subtraction, but the thing I really want you guys to realize is subtraction truly is the same thing as negative. They really are. I got a negative 8 and I got a negative 11 there. That just makes it a lot more obvious if I write it like this. All right, how are we doing with those? You guys got it?
Yep.
So what's that first one? Good. This is negative 2 because they're different signs. So I do 7 minus 5, I get 2.
Yeah, negative 2.
Bigger one's negative. So you put the negative on.
Can we say minus 2? Or is it wrong?
Yeah, it's a little bit wrong because minus really refers directly to the subtraction symbol. And in this case, that negative is not really subtracting from something. It's just negative 2 sitting by
Yeah,
itself.
but the same, like, same one, like, it's the dash. So.
Yeah, if you say minus 2, I know what you mean. But try to say negative 2 when it's just sitting by itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
What's up?
Negative 50.
So
Let's be.
you have a lot of different ways to look at this. You can either say, if I'm down 7, You with me? And I go up 5. Did I get all the way past 0 yet? Where am I? I'm only at what?
2.
2. Right? That's 5 away from 7. I'm still at negative though, right? So the quicker way to look at this, I don't want you to have to draw pictures all the time. I don't want you to have to go down to 811 if they have it up here. So that's why this rule is a little better to use. If they are different signs, you subtract the numbers. So what's 7 minus 5?
2.
2. And then you put the sign of the bigger one on the answer. That's the shortcut. That accomplishes the same thing that this does.
So minus 2, 2 minus 5, 3.
Negative 7
Minus
plus 5.
5 is 8.
Yeah. What would I have to add to negative 7 just to get back to 0?
Negative 7.
And then what would I have to add to negative 7
Oh,
to get back to 0? 7. So, in this problem, I'm adding only 5. How short am I?
2.
And that's why the answer came out negative 2. It's telling you how short you still are. I used $7. I got 5. I'm still short 2. Okay. So there's a ton of different ways to look at these. To me, the quickest way to do the problems actually is just to remember those 2 rules. So what about this guy?
Negative 6.
Minus 15.
Good. Same sign. They're the same sign.
Negative.
So you add them. 2 plus 13, 15. But you put the sign back on. Negative 15. Word up. And then what about number 3? Negative 4. They're different signs. Positive 5, negative 9. They're different signs. So you subtract. 9 minus 5 is 4. But then which one's bigger? And what sign is it? This is the rules. They're the different signs. Positive, negative. You subtract them. So 9 minus 5 is 4. Which one's bigger?
9.
The 9 is bigger. And it is
4.
negative.
So wait, okay. 5 minus 9 is 4. So and minus 8 is 4.
No 8s. 5 minus 9.
It's 4.
They are different signs.
Okay. Then you minus that.
You
You
subtract
minus
them
4.
and you put the sign of the bigger one on there.
And then you minus 4, right?
That's the answer. Now the hardest one up here, what about number 4?
2.
Careful. It's not, it can't be 2 because 6 minus 4 is 2. So 6 minus negative 4 cannot also be 2. Does that make sense? Otherwise you're telling me 4 and negative 4 are the same. And if I owe you $4, I wish it did. You with me? So what are 2, now look at these 2 negatives. Yeah, what are these 2 negatives doing to each other? Multiplying, because they're sitting right next to each other, right? And we talked about this earlier. The opposite of the opposite, minus a negative becomes plus. And somebody told me, I might as well say this, I can't remember. Right? It looks like somebody's sleeping, and then you wake them up. That's one way to look at it.
You don't put the minus in front of the 6?
Say again?
You don't put it in front of
Definitely not. Alright. So let's look at this one. Let's look at this one. Let me give you a physical situation. I got $6. Bless you. And last week I paid you $4 because I thought I owed you $4. But then you forgive that debt. You say, no, that's all right. Here's your $4 back. You don't owe me $4. So forgiving a debt increases how much money I have, right? So it should go up. Now something a little less removed from mathematics. Subtracting a negative number. So if I add, let's go through a couple things. If I add a positive, I'm going to go this way, of course, right? 2 plus 7 gets bigger. If I subtract a positive, I'm going to go backwards, right? You with me? If I add a negative, so like adding debt, I'm going to go back. You with me? So then, if I subtract a negative, I have to go that way. Because subtracting a negative will do the opposite of what a negative normally would do. That's whatever the opposite of what a negative is a positive, right? So the opposite of negative 4 is, what's the opposite of negative 4?
4.
Plus 4. Positive 4. You with me? Two negatives multiply to be a positive because they mean the opposite of the opposite. They go away. Yeah.
Not minus 10?
Definitely not minus 10. Because I have at least 6, right?
Yeah.
There's a positive 6 there.
Yeah.
It's never going to get all the way down to negative 10. I'm at positive 6. But I'm minusing a negative. I'm subtracting a negative. So I should be getting more positive. If I subtract negative away, I'm getting more positive. That's why two negatives make a plus. How are we doing? Okay, cool.
Excuse me?
Yes?
If you change negative 6 with the negative 4.
But how would the 6 become negative?
Minus 6.
How would it become negative? Oh, you mean like a different problem?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you. Whew. So I'm like, the 6 can't become negative. But if I have a different problem, negative 6 minus negative 4?
It's going to be different. Well, here is multiplying, right?
Now again, the first
No,
step.
without minus.
The first step is the same. I have two negatives sitting next to each other, make it a plus. I have two negatives sitting next to each other, so what do I do in the next line?
No, without this minus. This negative.
Let's do this problem real quick, and then I'll do the one you're talking about. This will be negative 6
Plus 4.
plus 4.
No, without plus.
Hold on.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you mean, are you telling me how to do the problem? Or are you coming up with a different problem? I'm sorry.
So it's going to be multiplying here, right?
No,
On this problem here?
No, without the negative.
she's asking like minus
Gotcha.
6
All
minus
right,
4.
we're almost there. Hold on.
Minus 6.
But real quick, let me finish this one out.
Okay.
This would be plus 4, right? What's negative 6 plus 4?
Minus 2.
Good, because the bigger one's negative. So negative 2.
Negative 2.
Okay. So you're getting a little bit ahead of me. Right? You're talking about multiplying?
Negative 6.
She's saying if that subtraction sign in the middle
Was a time.
It'll be multiplication.
Exactly. And that's the next section. We're almost there.
So if we change the negative,
Yeah, we might as well talk about it.
yeah. Just we change it to the left side. So it's gonna be multiplying, right?
Yeah, this definitely means multiply. You with me?
Okay.
Because what two numbers do I have sitting up there? No, what two numbers do I have sitting up there?
6 and 4.
That's the answer. You're right, but I didn't ask for the answer yet. I got negative 6 and I got negative 4. And what's in the middle of them? Basically nothing. So that means multiply. I like it. If they wanted me to add, they should have put a freaking plus sign there, right? You with me? If they wanted me to subtract, they should have wrote it like that. Divide. There's no divisions. That must mean multiplication. So then, like you said, what's the answer? 24. Why is it positive 24? Two negatives multiply to be a positive. So don't let it be bad that two negatives add to be a negative. And let that only make sense. If I owe multiple people money, it's going to come out to a big freaking negative number, right?
Yeah.
Negatives will add and stay negative. You can't erase your debt by adding more debt. I've tried.
All right, write that down, man.
That's good life lesson.
Multiply and double negative.
When you multiply two negatives, they cancel each other out because they each mean the opposite of it.
So even though it's negative, it still has value. That's what you're saying.
The negative symbol itself?
The two negatives.
Yes.
Add them up, they come up so positive.
When you multiply them, yes. So in this case, this would be positive 24. Cool.
So you're saying that two wrongs do make a right?
You can hear whatever you want to from what I said. I'm only talking about math.
Oh, all right.
It doesn't always apply to any situation you want, so be
Now,
careful.
just for my notes.
My teacher said,
Yeah. So two negatives
I like-
equal a positive.
"Now, officer, I know I was speeding, but it didn't have my seatbelt on either. So I'm good." No, don't do that.
Two negatives and add and subtracting is a positive also.
So let's do this. Here, guys. Try this out. Don't say anything out loud.
So the
Don't say anything out loud.
Papers you gonna hand out today? Homework or anything?
Oh, I hand some back.
Oh no, it's because I'm gonna have to leave a little early.
That's right. We're about to leave too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Yes, sir.
Can I just do one?
Sure.
5 times 7, 35.
And what happens to the negatives?
That's times
So what happens to them?
35.
So the negatives cancel.
Yes.
Cool, right? And what's this?
Minus 12.
Not minus 2, be careful.
12.
Cool. So what would this be here?
Fourth one is two negatives positive, right?
Second.
I thought two negatives is positive, of course.
You gotta be careful.
Only in multiplication?
Only multiplication. Remember, what's the physical situation this represents? I owe you $5. I owe him 7. I cannot expect my answer to come out positive, or else I'm living in a world that ain't going to do me good very long. The bank's going to come at my door. Yeah.
Can I just guess? Can I just guess?
No, never just guess.
Minus 20?
No, 40.
Now be careful. How many negatives are in this? 2. So what are those 2 going to do? Cancel. Anytime you have an even number of negatives in your problem, they're going to pair up and cancel. You got it with it? Say again? So be careful. What's the only time negatives cancel?
Negative by negative.
If they're right next to each other.
When you are multiplying them, right? Or dividing in that case. You with me? If you're adding, subtracting, negatives will just become more negative when you put them together. Be really careful about that. That's really easy to make that mistake. So in this case,
40.
positive 40. Yes, sir.
Can you like write it out? Like,
Yeah, you can do this step by step. What's 4 times negative 2?
Minus 8.
Negative 8. Is that cool? Hey, guys. Hey. Quiet. What's up?
ain't you supposed to do the, matter of fact, that's multiplication. Never mind, you doing all
right. Every time I'm gonna come to you first now. I come to you and say, is that okay?
I'll think about doing parentheses first.
No, I'm with you. That's a good point. In order operations, parentheses only references if they have something inside, right? In this case, these parentheses, like you said, only mean multiplication. I love it. So I'm at that level of the order operations.
So you still use parentheses first?
Okay.
No.
Okay.
You do this. This means multiplication. And what's the only operation here? Multiplication. So I can actually do this any order I want to. I could do 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. Why is it negative still there? Because there was no other negative there to kill it. You with me? But now, what's negative 8 times negative 5? Does 2 negatives die? 8 times 5 is 40. Or I could have done this. What's negative 2 times negative 5? 10. Good, because the negatives cancel. And then what's 4 times 10? 40. So multiplication doesn't care what order you do it in. You're going to get the same damn number any time. Yeah.
Or 4 times slash 4 slash 4 slash 4 and then slash plus 5 and slash plus 2.
No, don't do slashes. You'll have to explain it to me later. I'm not really sure.
No, I'll show you right now. Want me to show you?
No, hold on. Show me later. Okay.
I'll show you.
So officially, we just made it up through section 2.4. They really break it out in chapter 2, step by step. So we talked about adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. That gets you up through section 2.4. You guys with me? We finished up through 2.4. So when is that homework due? Next Thursday.
Yeah.
Let me say that one more time. We just did up through section 2.4. So the homework through 2.4 is due next Thursday. Also, our first quiz on Tuesday. Chapter 1. Let me tell you this, guys. Hey, guys. Every person. Do you need Scantron for this test? What do you think? Hell no. If you have a math teacher that has you do Scantron quizzes and tests, they are not a math teacher. I'm not sure who they are.
They do like the test and then on the side.
They do that because they're lazy. I'm not lazy yet. So do not, if you bring a Scantron, you can. You just ain't going to have to use it unless you need it for scrapping. Yeah. You can in a minute. Yes, ma'am. Wait. Guys! Hey! What is going on tonight? Yes, ma'am.